Most of you here know me, but I'm Chad Edwards. I'm the Assistant Chief of Police here at Emerald Isle. We've had, obviously this time of year, what do you see more of around Emerald Isle? People walking, people riding bikes, and of course now there are all kinds of other vehicles that we can talk about in a separate conversation. Just a few crash statistics from Carteret County. A little glare here. These are reportable crashes. These may differ slightly from our departmental records because reportable crash means that it's either over $1,000 in damage or there was some kind of injury involved. So these are the reportable crashes, 3,213 total in 2022. And the main cause of those crashes, failure to reduce speed. The age group that caused most of those crashes was the 20 to 29-year-old age group. That kind of goes without saying, they're the least experienced. As you can see, the older the age group, the less crashes for the most part. Our Emerald Isle crash statistics, and again, these are reportable crashes. We had a total of 118 in 2022, same major cause. 39 of those 118 were people running in the back of other vehicles. All right, pedestrian crashes. The ones we just talked about were total crashes. These are pedestrian crashes. In North Carolina in 2022, we had over 5,300 crashes involving somebody walking. In Carteret County, we had 22, and in Emerald Isle, we only had 2, which is outstanding. Why do you think that number was so low in Emerald Isle for pedestrian crashes? We have a dedicated area for people to walk, so they're not walking in the road. Crashes involving cyclists. In North Carolina, there were 1,400 last year. Carteret County was 14 and Emerald Isle was 0. And once again, that's major contributing factors, probably our multi-use path. It encourages cyclists to go there and use that path instead of the roadway. What is a crosswalk? That is Emerald Drive at Ace Hardware, Emerald Plantation. At a marked crosswalk, we're going to talk about different types of crosswalks, but a marked crosswalk is 2 white parallel lines, just like you see running across the road here. And or it could be a series of white blocks. You've seen the ones that are multi-use path that are a series of white blocks. It's usually intersections, but not always. We'll talk about that in a second. You see what we've got here is marked on 3 sides, but on one side it's not. That is technically still considered a crosswalk. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Another type of crosswalk we have is a mid-block crosswalk. The purpose of a mid-block crosswalk is there is nowhere nearby for pedestrians to safely cross. There's no intersection within walking distance that they can walk to. So we provide that area for them. What do our mid-block crosswalks have that other towns may not have? Flashing lights. Flashing lights don't have anything to do with the law necessarily. They are to let you know a pedestrian has the intent to cross their roadway. They don't mean you have to immediately slam on brakes and let the car behind you run into you. I mean, hey, somebody's trying to cross the road here, okay? And if you can safely yield to them and allow them to cross, please do so. Unmarked crosswalks. Remember we were looking at Emerald and Lone and we saw that the bottom portion of that intersection did not have white lines running across it? That's still a crosswalk. It continues wherever a sidewalk ends at an intersection and continues on the other side. So if you come up to a sidewalk at an intersection, it doesn't have to be a 4-way intersection. It can be a 2-way or a 3-way intersection. If there's a stop sign there, the cars need to stop and your crosswalk goes to the other sidewalk, whether there's painted lines on the roadway or not. So the pedestrian has the right of way. Drivers are required to yield to pedestrians at marked crossings and unmarked crosswalks. North Carolina is a yield state, not a stop state. So all you have to do is yield, slow down, allow them to safely pass, and then go. You do not have to come to a complete stop like you do at a stop sign. Drivers must stop for pedestrians when there's a stop sign or a flashing red light. So otherwise you have to yield. If there's a stop sign or a flashing red light, you gotta stop anyway, but you gotta stop and yield to pedestrians. We must yield to pedestrians on sidewalks crossing streets, and when they are not at an intersection or a marked crosswalk, pedestrians must yield to vehicles. Some more bike and pedestrian laws. It's unlawful for pedestrians to cross a street between 2 signalized intersections. Let's say you've got 2 stoplights. that are, you can see them, there's 2 stoplights. The pedestrian says, I don't want to walk all the way to that stoplight and cross the road, I want to cross here. Who's in the right of way? The person in the car. Because you were near a signalized intersection, you were between 2 of them, you were supposed to walk to the stoplight, cross the road, and then go where you were going. Recent changes to the law allow for passing of cyclists in no passing zones. They're legal to ride on the road. They're legal to ride in the lane of travel. The new law says that when we pass them, first of all, we can now pass them in no passing zones. So anywhere in town, you can pass a cyclist if you need to. Obviously, make sure there's nobody coming in the other direction, that goes without saying. And we have to give them 4 feet. Cyclists, the law says cyclists must use hand signals when turning or stopping. Cyclists must obey all traffic signs and signals. In North Carolina, we'll talk a little more about this, bicycles are vehicles. You can get a DWI on a bicycle. You can get a ticket for running a stop sign on a bicycle. So they have to obey all the same laws that vehicles do. Now, here's one that came up recently. Now, legally, if a bike is in a crosswalk and a vehicle hits them, technically the vehicle has the right of way. But sometimes the crosswalk may be the safest place. But the law says the bike is a vehicle and has to follow the rules of the vehicle. So just keep that in mind. All cyclists must use headlights at night, and they have to be visible from 300 feet away. Cyclists must use either a rear reflector or reflective clothing that you can also see from 300 feet away. Anybody under 16 must wear a helmet. Children under 40 pounds or 40 inches, now don't get this confused with the car seat rule, but for bicycles, if your child is under 40 pounds or 40 inches, they either need to be in a child seat on the rear of the bike or in one of the bicycle trailers secured in there. Most of those come with straps, and you can secure them in there just like a car seat. If you got anything else, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you guys for coming. We appreciate it.